What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Welcome to Saturday. Thanks so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day and joining us on a fun show. Today, we're going to be talking about D-rats. You ever heard of D-rats before? Well, we're going to be talking about it. And we've got the guy to explain it because it's new to me as well, but it should make for effective emergency communication. Thank you, Johnny, for the super chat. Been with you a little over a month. Did the... Oh, this is a little loud, isn't it? I'll bring that down a step. Podcast and got some books passed. Passed Tech today. Thank you. The VEs were great. Thanks to them as well. All right. Thank you, Johnny. Congratulations on getting your license. And let's kick it off, all right? How's it going, everybody? I am Josh, KI6NAZ. Welcome to the Ham Radio Crash Course. Got a bit of a change going on around me. I turned on YouTube membership so that we can activate sweet emojis in the chat, basically. I made a video on it. You can go check that out after. But thanks for the support, everybody. Appreciate y'all making it out here. I got a couple of things to mention up front. You know, we do the Ham Radio Crash Course to kind of introduce people to new aspects of amateur radio, both software, hardware, and just fun things you can do with radio. We try to create an inclusive environment where people feel welcomed and can ask the questions that they need answered to kind of move them forward, because we're all just moving forward together with radio, as we say. A couple of notes. I want to do a big shout out to Skylar KJ7TTS. He and I had a QSO earlier today on 20 meters. He's 10 years old, just got his technician license, and just want to say a big thank you for the QSO there, Skylar. Appreciate it. And my wife became a member. Thank you, Leia. Appreciate that. What else do we got? Let me throw it over to this really quick. All right. The ARRL, a little bit of a note. This is a news story that is going to take effect, obviously, for Field Day in 2021. If you remember Field Day 2020, the ARRL allowed us to work D-to-D stations, which are home stations. Normally, they don't do that. Because of COVID, they allowed us to make those contacts and have them count for points for Field Day. They made a slight change this year. You can still make D-to-D contacts, but there is a peak envelope power, maximum wattage output of 150 watts. So you will be limited in the power output for a D-to-D contact. I think that's a pretty good move. I think that's pretty solid. The link is in the description if you would like to know more about that. Also, I want to make a shout out. Steve K5ATA messaged us and said that Glarg did a really good job. By the way, Steve is Good Game Ham Radio, which has been on my streams before. And he was pointing out, and I'll just read it, just putting it out there, if you'd share the love in your streams or whatever, it would be much appreciated. Glarg has gone out of their way to help Padawans this testing. They made a special test for 2 kids who got quarantined. That's awesome. Thanks for doing that. Then we got canceled at school for the big group, and without missing a beat, they scheduled a session for any of them who want to test online. It may be 15 kids, and they're cool with it. For free, just saying, some things are worth a little free bragging on. This is one of them. So shout out to Glarg, great job, and that's the Greater Los Angeles Area Amateur Radio Group, and they do online VE testing through Zoom, and I think another piece of software that makes that possible. So great work, Glarg. Appreciate that. Now, here's the big thing. Who saw the giveaway that HRO is doing? HRO is giving away a Chevy Trailblazer with ICOM radios for their 50th anniversary. It is a Chevy Trailblazer with the grand prize Chevy Trailblazer with an ID 5100A Deluxe and a matching antenna for that. Second place is an IC 7300. Third place is a 2730, and fourth place is a $50 gift certificate. The link is in the description to join this giveaway. I've never seen a ham radio company give away a car before, so this is new for me as well. It's pretty cool. Let's see what's going on in the chat. I got a couple of super chats to catch up on. Thanks for that. Thanks to my wife for joining the membership. Appreciate that. Appreciate Felix. Thank you for the super chat. Donald Glover, thanks for joining. Philip Muth, thanks. David Potter, thanks for the super chat with the $2.23. Appreciate that. Very cool. Okay, so I wanna get to the interview here as quickly as I possibly can because there is a lot of good information that we're gonna get here. Boy, that's a laggy. Look at that. That refreshes really slowly. Anyway, let's flip it over to our guest. John Davis, WB4QDX. John knows all about DRATs. We were trying to think of a name for somebody that knows DRATs really well. The DRAT King, the Big Cheese. What would you say your background is in DRATs here, John?
Several years of playing with it.
Very good, very good.
Playing with the cheese.
Playing with the cheese, I like it. Well, help everybody out, myself included, because I'm kind of looking at this with fresh eyes. What is DRATs? Give me the 5-minute, elevator speech.
Well, DRATs was originally developed to be kind of a messaging and data application for D-Star radios.
Mm-hmm.
It was developed by a guy named, I just went with Dan Smith. K7 DDS, I think is it's called. Actually, he's the guy behind Chirp. Dan.
Oh.
Yeah, that Dan.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Right on.
And he wrote this. Gosh, it must have been back in 2009, 2010, just as D-Star was getting going, and put a lot of capabilities in it. And like a lot of programmers, they move on to other things. And the greater thing for him was Chirp.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still there. But the application has caught on so much more after Dan stopped his initial development on it. Just a short version of it, it does messaging, it does chat, it does file transfer, and you can even do position displays on it as well. It works on multiple platforms. It'll work on Windows, Linux, iOS, and you don't have to have a D-Star radio to get on DRATs.
Now, help me out. DRATs, I guess I'm taking the rats and I'm flipping it. It's D-Star backwards, right? So people would assume it's D-Star based, but you're saying it doesn't have to be necessarily a D-Star radio to be involved with using this software.
That's exactly right. You can actually just connect through the internet. And through the use of, we've seen those of who are into D-Star know about reflectors.
Right.
We're connecting repeaters together or hotspots together, etc. We have ratflectors in DRATs.
Ratflectors
can connect people together as well there.
Now, obviously, this kind of has an emergency preparedness kind of bend to it. Is that its primary function? Is the kind of emergency preparedness aspect?
Well, that is certainly a perfect application for it, but it's been used in multiple ways. I guess emergency communications is probably the best way it's put to use, but just for simple transfer of information. I mean, it's been used in non-emergency events like parades or Red Cross events or something like that. I mean, it's a great way to pass messaging. I wish it were available for all kinds of radios, including other than D-Star, because it's almost like a Swiss Army knife for data communications.
Now, so I guess like a foot race would be like a good use for that then too, right? Because you just have numbers that you're sending in and out. So making sure I understand, it is an application, so you're probably going to need like a computer. You mentioned Windows. People are so used to Windows kind of being the ham radio kind of thing. You mentioned iOS, though. Would it also run on Mac OS? Or maybe talk about those two platforms.
Well, I'm least familiar with the Mac platform, Apple platforms. So I'm not an expert there. And I know there's probably going to be some people in the chat tonight who've got a lot of experience with it, and they may can comment on that as well. But I know quite a few people. Obviously, Windows is the predominant platform for it, but Linux also. I know several people locally here in our group that run on Linux platforms, and it runs just great.
Somebody asked, do you need the internet to make it work?
Good question.
Yeah.
The internet, like with D-Star, extends the capabilities, extends the range. Let's say I'm at one point with my D-Star radio, and you're at another point 10 miles away, and we can talk simplex. We could run DRATs between our stations, or we could run through the local D-Star repeater. Or if one of us is connected to the internet, they could join in that conversation as well and have the full capabilities. Now, when you go with the internet for connecting D-Star repeaters together, or have a ratflector, as we're calling it, available to you, then that just extends the range. For example, we could have a conversation, and I think we'll probably have some folks tonight. Got a good friend that conducts our DRATS net on the Southeast D-Star Weather Net every Sunday night.
Okay.
And we have a DRATS session going on. He's in Louisiana, but we'll have people checking in via DRATS all over the Southeast.
Is it predominantly for line of sight communication? So VHF, UHF?
If you're operating simplex, that would be whatever you can operate. If you're connected to, let's say, a 50-watt mobile, and you're at a high point, you could definitely go a lot longer distance.
Okay.
So it's going to follow your radio communications range.
Okay. But generally,
if you're simplex, whatever your simplex distance is, if you're through a repeater, whatever that repeater's range is, and then of course with the internet connectivity, sky's the limit.
Gotcha. We don't, or you don't generally use it on like 20 meters though, right? It's
no.
2 meters, 70 centimeters.
UHF based communication.
So local community support, local emergency service support, event support, or just running a net like the example you gave. Okay, so I've got a bunch of questions, but I think it might be best if we kind of show people what it looks like and what it does. I've got some images, and I know you've got a screen, share that you want to do. Do you want to do the images first, or do you want to do your screen share?
Why don't I just walk through the live session I have going here?
Great.
That's okay.
That works great. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me bring that screen up. All right. That should be available there. Yep. This is the main screen for messaging. And if you'll notice at the very top, if you can see it, you'll see 4 tabs: messages, chat, files, and event log. And so I'm on the messages tab, and it looks an awful lot like an email client, because you see the inbox, outbox, sent, and trash. And then you see who they're from, who I sent it to, subject, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Now, I can send several things. I could send, for example, an ICS 213, useful for emergency communications. I can send it like an email, or I can send just a memo, or, boy, here's a neat one, a radiogram.
Oh, interesting.
And it will actually fill in a lot of the blanks for you. I always have trouble on a radiogram coming up with the check digit. It will calculate it for you.
Oh,
so
cool.
Let's look at one, for example. I want to do it just as like an email message. Has my source call sign, the destination call sign of who I'm going to send it to, and you'll notice the stations that are online with me up in the top right.
Okay.
And so I just fill that out and send it. So that would then go out. You would see that as a message going out. If we want to make it a lot simpler, I can just make that basically just like a text message or something. Or we can even create some special forms, which we have done when NWS does, the National Hurricane Center down in South Florida does their testing on, I think it's around the end of May. We created a form for just reporting that. So you can come up with a custom form. You can create it on the fly. You can actually distribute that form within DRATS to other stations as a template, so then they can fill them in and send them. So I can send it as a message, or I can send it as a form embedded within the message. And then just very quickly, chat is just what it says. Here are the stations that are on capable of chatting. Files, and here's something I really, really like as a feature within DRATS. I call it unattended file transfer. So
cool.
If I want to send or receive a file from a station that's online, and that'll be one of these stations over here in the top right, then I can connect to that station. I will see a folder that they have designated on their PC as a sharing folder, and that's the only one I can see. And then I can grab a file from them, or they can send a file to me. And we'll demonstrate some of that if you like as well.
Oh, that'd be great.
The event log as a final thing is just a kind of a record of things going on. In emergency communications, you need to keep a log of what you're doing. That's a great way to do it. So that's kind of a quick run through of what it is.
Now, since you're looking at this, there's obviously, to me, this jumps out as, is there some kind of persistent heartbeat, or are you all on the same frequency that I can see the stations in the upper right-hand corner, and it looks like the minutes associated with it were the last time you heard from that individual? How does that play into it?
Well, we're currently I'm connected to a rat flector, which I actually have running here at my house. It's right over here beside me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's in the DRATS program, which you can download. There's another sub utility in there called DRATS Repeater, and that's how you can create a rat flector, which is just a place to connect people together. It's running on my PC. It's connected to the internet, and it's also connected to a D-Star radio that is on our local D-Star repeater. So stations sending over radio or stations sending via internet are connected together. And those are the stations. For example, I'll show you here. If I look under, pull this down just a little bit, File, Preferences, and Radio,
Mm-hmm.
I've defined quite a few things here. These are rat flectors, different ones. The first one here is Georgia Aries. I've got Georgia Oxcom. I've got Gwinnett Aries, which is our local Aries group. And then I've got a what looks like an IP address. Then I can also define a radio within this that connects, so I can connect my PC directly to my D-Star radio and be able to send via radio. Okay. And that could be between two radios. It could be between two radios connected through a repeater, etc.
Now, when you have, let's say, two rat flectors, do they like mesh? Can they do that capability where
No.
they don't? Okay, so it's 1-to-1 or to a repeater.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the repeater does what? Does a rat flector connect to a repeater, or how does that work?
Well, you can do it several ways. What I have here for my configuration is I have it running on a separate PC, and it runs as an application, and then I also connect via a serial port to my D-Star radio. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually bridging between the internet for someone that links to this rat flector and someone who would be on the local repeater.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you're both doing local RF when needed to pass traffic. Mm-hmm. And comms, and then does that also then bridge it over the network to the larger DRATS network or whomever you've connected to?
That's right. That's okay. Right. Yeah, whoever is connected to the rat flector or my local repeater, that might be just a simplex channel to a group of local radios as well. Now, that bridges them together. It's a conference bridge for DRATS.
Okay. Does that also bridge voice?
No.
Okay. It's primarily for data. So the examples
data,
you gave,
either files or chat or messages.
Okay. Why don't you show us that file transfer? That was pretty interesting.
That is neat.
And is it any files that you just take from your computer? And so I see JPEG, text. I see all kinds of stuff there.
Well, what you're limited on is your transfer speed. If you're going over radio, your transfer speed in D-Star data is only about 1,200 BPS, about 1,200 baud. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be limited in your file size. Okay. Now, we've actually sent some pictures before, but they are lower resolution pictures. But most of these files you can see are 780 bytes. It might be 117 bytes. It might be 1.3 kilobytes. They're not big files. I do have, the stations you see over here to the right. Now I'm going to refresh that list. And the way I do that, I'm going to right click and say ping all stations. Okay. So it's actually going to send a ping out and ask for anyone who is on this rat flector to respond back. So you'll see several people. I see my friend Glenn, KG5CEN down in Louisiana. I see KA4KKF. He's located within the county here where I am. And so if I want to connect to him, I'm going to pick him from the list, and he must be an active station. And I'm going to, there he is, KA4KKF. Well, for some reason, let me connect somebody else. Let me go to Glenn. KG5CEN. Why is he not showing there? Let me see if I can do that and connect, see if it does that. I'm connecting, and you see down here on the lower right, if you can see that on the screen, it says connected to KG5CEN. So what it should do is I should get a list of his files now that I'm connected to him. If he's got some folder, some designated there, and I would actually see his. Let me disconnect from him, and let me also try another station, which I know does, KA4KKF, and connect to him. So I'm connecting to KA4KKF. I'm connected. Oh, wow. He's got a lot of files. And this is in a folder that he has set up strictly for sharing. So if I want to go get this file, let's say here, without him doing anything, I can download that file. And it will start sending that file. It's a small file. Let me see, did I hit download?
So it's kind of like packet transfer rate. You said 1200
yes,
baud?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And so you would see that file get transferred over, and it will show up on my side, my local side. This looks just like FTP for those who do that.
Right.
And it will transfer that file over, and then you'll see it on my side. And I can do the same thing in reverse. I can take a file over here, and I can send that to him. The only requirement is that station has to be online and connected to, let's say, the same source.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, once I do that, he could be unattended, and I could send a file to him or grab one off of his folder.
Ah, okay. It kind of almost becomes a radio web server in a lot of ways, if you think about it like that, which is really cool. So you could have, obviously, I'm looking at what looks like message traffic in some cases, but you could have like an information file, like going even so far as to say like first aid tips or first aid instructions if you're going on a race, and what are the signs of dehydration, right? If you're at a race station or whatever, you could have that available in case somebody, I didn't download it on my laptop, I'll just pull it off the DRAT server.
Right.
Now
that's exactly it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, cool. So it's more than just email, I think, is the point. Is it's covering. You've got the live chat aspect, which you already shown. You've got the file transfer, and the live chat is just people that are on frequency or connected to you over the internet, right?
That's right. So I can send, if I send something here, and that's sent out, you'll see it show up above. And all these stations that are on chat here receive that chat line as well.
Okay.
There's nothing special about it. However, I will say there is a feature in here where you can add a filter or join a channel that makes it a little more private. And all that's doing is just stripping off the header to that station. So I can create down here a main, I could create an admin channel for back channel communications. And although others can join, it's not private, but it does segregate the traffic a little bit to make it, you could create multiple channels for admin, back channel, shelters, individually, whatever.
It's got an IRC feel to it, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it very much reminds me of IRC.
Yeah.
Can you, while you're here, since you're showing the app, this might be the easiest way to do it. Can you show somebody what they would have to do to set this up?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great.
Well, first off, you can download it from several sources. One of them I will mention is dstarinfo.com.
Yeah, hang on really quick, and let me pull up the website for that so you can talk to that. Let's do that right now. So here's the web scene for DStar Info.
And if you look, there's a tab along those green tabs along the top. There's one near the right side for DRATs.
There it is. So let's click on
that.
that.
So if you go there, then it will allow you, you can download it there.
Okay.
And it'll just create an exe file that you can start. And when you start off with it, the first thing you automatically do, you'll get the preferences.
Yeah, let me flip over so you can show that.
Back on my screen.
Yep.
You'll put in your call sign, your name. Most of this is just default information. You won't need to do anything. The one thing beyond that you'll need to do, you'll see here, file transfer path. And that's where I'm just naming a file on my PC that will be used for file transfer. I can't see any other files on a PC, anyone else's, or no one can see them on mine. The rest of these are for other things, and that's a little more advanced. But that's the main thing. And then the next thing you'll need to do is come down here and set up either a RATflector or to define a radio. For example, if I wanted to define a radio, let me see, that probably went on another screen.
Oh, it's on another screen.
Yeah,
as it always does, right? When you're trying to demonstrate live.
But it allows you to go ahead and configure it as either a device, a serial device, or by name. And we set up the same person that does dstarinfo.com, WA4YIH, set up ratflector.com. And anyone that sets one up, give Ed the IP address, and therefore you can get an alias like one of these at gwinnettaries.ratflector.com, for example.
And you said it was ratflector.com?
That's right.
Okay, let me pull that.
Ratflector.com.
Okay, I have to pull that up. I'm not finding it. I'll keep looking. You keep going. So, did you get the radio set up, or that window popped away?
No, that's on another screen. I did not get that, but they're going to be set up the same way. You'll just be asked if it's the type of connection, and that'll be serial, because you do connect to a D-Star radio through, it's basically just 3 conductors: transmit data, receive data, and ground. Mm-hmm. And then now with the new models of D-Star radios, that can be done over USB or even Bluetooth.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because that was going to be one of the questions that came in the chat that we're going to answer here. So if you've got something that's a D-Star capable radio, and I'm thinking in my head an ICOM 7100, a 9700, or the new 705, those are all USB, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so you're just connecting this straight to the computer, running the app to the radio.
Yeah, it's going to set up a virtual serial port.
Okay. Now, for the other radios that have a serial connection, what is that connection that you're using?
Which other radios do you mean?
You mentioned the 3-pin connector. Like what is that?
Oh, like a handheld, like a 9051.
Interesting. I didn't even really think about that. So
right, they have a data connection, a data jack, and it's just a 3-conductor jack that can go to a serial port, or the RT Systems and ICOM make connectors that are USB to that 3-pin data port. And there's RT Systems makes an I'm going to give them a plug, because they do a lot of good things with their programming and everything. They have what's known as we refer to it as the orange cable.
Okay.
And it's their RTS05 cable is what they designate it as. And that will work with almost any D-Star radio, because they have that data port, that 3-pin data port, whether it be a handheld. Now, it doesn't go all the way back to the old ID 91, 92s. Those are the older ones, but everything, the ID 31, 51, all the mobile radios have that data jack on there, and you can do that. But now that we've gone to the serial connector, you're just connecting to a serial port, and with the USB, you create a virtual serial port.
So you can use a handheld for this. Actually, that's a really interesting point. I didn't even think about that. So is that how?
Makes for a great portable setup.
Oh wow, I didn't even really think about that.
Yes.
So that's very cool. So you're, again, hypothetical event you're attending, or you're a part of a crew, and you are going to, you do what? You would have a ratpeater, or am I saying that right? Is that
RATflector?
Ratpeter is probably the wrong word. You have a laptop that's connected to your ICOM radio, whatever it is, and it could be an HT, running the software. Mm-hmm. Is that a RATflector, technically?
No, that is not. That is just the client running, and that will get you through a local repeater or simplex to another radio running DRADs.
Okay, and simplex allows you to do what we're seeing here, which is the chat, basically, and all the other things.
Absolutely. I can do everything here simplex that I can do through a repeater.
Interesting. Okay, I'm starting to get the. So I definitely saw the value of it if I'm just talking about like my home station or whatever. But now I'm thinking I can run this in my home on one of my base station radios, and I can be portable on a handheld and be able to connect technically.
That's right.
Right? If I'm within range of transmission.
That's right. That's exactly
okay.
right.
Now we're talking. Okay, now I'm getting the aha moment. If you listen to the podcast, I'm having the ding moment. There's a bell that just went off somewhere. I've got to play a bell noise, I think. So yeah, I could have a little kit that is my D-Star handheld. And again, I'll have you elaborate on. You said you don't necessarily need D-Star for this, but connected to my computer, and I guess you need PTT control, right? Is that
through the on a D-Star radio? No, it actually takes care of it within the radio itself.
Okay, I got a super chat, and I have to say it because they want me to say it again. Habitual Hobbyist says, "Rat Peter, just wanted you to say it again." So thanks for that. I appreciate the opportunity to say that again.
You can say that. This is not broadcast television.
That's right. Okay. I'm starting to get the interest in this, because this could be really fascinating for a lot of reasons, right? Particularly file transfers, right? Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
You can chat live, which is super cool. Is there any problem if it's your own station that you're talking to?
You need to designate, for example, here you'll see my call sign WB4QDX, and I put a -D, which, it kind of gives you the remembering packet kind of feel. But that was just designated. That was my desktop, and I might have another one that is -L for my laptop. So just to designate difference between those two radios. Now they would need to be either on connected to different radios, or if I'm working over the internet, different IP addresses. I couldn't have two running. Well, as you saw here, I can connect to my Ratflector, which is running locally here, but I could also connect to it straight to it, which that's its internal IP address.
Okay.
Or I can go to the same thing by going to gaarrays.ratflector.com, going out of the radio and back in.
Okay, I love it.
Out of the computer, I'm sorry.
Right. Brian Schmidt says, "Good topic." Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that in the chat there. Yeah, I'm catching all kinds of. Obviously, I'm getting the appeal for not just the traffic, right, sending the email aspect, if you will, but the direct connect and the file transfer. I think, or the chat when I say direct connect, because that kind of reminds me of when you'd run your packet modem in just open mode, and you'd just be. Right. Keyboard to keyboard is basically kind of what that feels like, pretty heavily.
Yes.
Now, how I'll have you break this down. Actually, is there anything you want to show more on the application side? Otherwise, we'll have you flip back, and I've got a couple of questions I'd like to ask.
No, that's pretty much on the application side. We can talk through some other things as well.
Okay. The curiosity I have is, and I'll wait for you to. There we go. I'm curious, the D-Star aspect of it, you mentioned you can do this with Simplex. So how does that all work? Is it the same interface? You use the same app? How does that go?
Right. Oh, yes. Remember I said I couldn't show it because it was on another screen. When I want to add something to those different devices or Ratflectors that I'm connecting to, it brings up a small box, and I'll define one as network, one is serial. And so since it is a serial connection to the radio, I just define the baud rate to that, and the port, and that's done. So then if I'm a simplex station over here and a mile away, I'm another simplex station, we're on the same simplex frequency. We're connected together. And if I do that ping, remember over on the right side of the screen, I can ping to see the station. That other station would show up. Okay.
Very cool. Let's answer some questions. And again, there's a couple of people who might have missed the beginning. I already asked the question about HF. It's not really for HF.
No.
Is there a reason why you can't do it with HF?
Well, one of the reasons is you're sending this kind of like UDP packets. They're just being sent out. Now, when you're doing file transfer, DRATS itself does some error checking.
Okay.
But when you operate over a D-Star data channel, there is no error checking.
Okay.
it has to be done within the application, and that was one of the things that was built into DRATs.
Okay.
For file transfer and messaging.
Now, it's not AX25, right? So it's not
No.
packet. Okay.
No, it's the D-Star protocol. When D-Star was developed, you've got a payload of like 3,600 bits, of which 2,400 of that is, no, it's actually 4,800. I'm sorry, it's been a while since I've thought about that. 4,800 bits per second is the transmission rate over D-Star.
Right.
2,400, well, actually 3,600 of that is for voice with error checking. The remaining 1,200 is for data, and there is no error checking on the data side.
Okay.
So that's where the 1,200 BPS comes from.
Right. So you're using the full space of
right.
You're using the not used portions of D-Star in a traditional simplex contact or what.
Now, one thing I will mention, in the later D-Star radios, you see in your menu system, there's a parameter in there for fast data.
Okay.
And what ICOM allowed with that, not ICOM, but the D-Star standard allowed with that, was rather than it will actually borrow the bits for voice, and it actually increases the transmission rate to 3,600 BPS.
Ooh, okay. And
so you can run that on the later models, and I would say from like the ID 31, 51, the 5100, that generation on, you do have the option for fast data.
The ID31 is the UHF handheld, right?
It's the UHF only handheld.
That's the one I have, so I'm going to set this up on that and my 705, and I'm going to be playing with that probably next weekend. That would be fun, because then I've got a home station that I can run, and then I can have another station out and about to connect to. That's great.
And so there you mentioned something else with the new 705s. You know, I think that's a great radio for data of all kinds, digital modes of all kinds. So it's a quick and easy station, and could be a little more powerful than a handheld to operate DRATs, let's say at a remote location.
I just yesterday, I just got it set up full wireless connection for doing digital with my laptop over the embedded access point that they activated over the wireless LAN. Do you think that would work with DRATs? Could I technically connect it wirelessly? Because it creates a simulated a logical serial port via the RSBA software.
Yes.
So that's the jam. I'll probably run it that way. I'll connect it up.
You can.
Okay. That will probably be a video in the future for sure. I've got to do it for JSA call and WSJ, you know, all the normal digital modes. So very good. Somebody asked in the chat, will it run on a Raspberry Pi? Do you know if there's Raspberry Pi version for this?
Well, yes, there is. And yes, it will. In fact, several folks have set up RATflectors using the Raspberry Pi. When you download DRATs, if you go in and look at the unzipped files in there, there will be one called DRATs repeater, and that is the RATflector. And that's an executable. You just start it, and you'll see it, and it just needs to have a couple of things set up on it, but almost out of the box, if you're connected to the internet, it's set to go. If you want to connect another radio or two, for example, you could connect multiple D-Star radios, one that's tuned to a local repeater, one that's tuned to another repeater, and that would bridge those together.
I like it. Okay. I'm definitely in with this ID31 thing. I didn't even think about that. The handy talkie thing kind of set the light bulb off, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so with that said, what would you recommend if people wanted to get started with this? What is kind of the recommended radio? And maybe give me an HT and a mobile or something like that you would point people to get started.
Well, any of the ICOM D-Star radios from at least, well, let me see, 7100 has it. It just doesn't work with like the older ones, like it will work with a 2820. That goes pretty far back as a mobile.
Okay.
It actually, I think, will connect to the 91 and 92 ADs through that data cable. That's always been there on all of the radios. So virtually any D-Star radio, it will work through the data port, and then you have the advantage of the later models that have USB connections. You can do that over USB. And again, that there's an ICOM cable. that either goes from that 3-pin plug to either serial or USB. But then RT Systems has the orange RTS-05 cable that works with almost every D-Star radio.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said somebody should copyright Raspberry Pi. So there you go. You got it. You should write that down. That's a very good one. Thank you, Daniel L, for that. I like it. There was a couple of comments in the chat, and I'll just throw them at you, and you take them as you will. Somebody asked, would this work over Arden, which I think is totally different than this, right?
No, that's
different system.
Well, let me see. Is that using like Wi-Fi mesh networks, I believe?
Correct. Yeah, it uses Ubiquity systems.
Yes. In fact, I think some groups, there's a group out of, I want to say Minneapolis, that has used DRATs for an event like that, where they're running it. If you're connecting it, you really don't need D-Star to do it.
Right. It's an internet replacement.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
So it becomes IP-based at that point.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's great. So that's fantastic. Actually, so then you pick up the higher data rates. You'd get way faster data rates on transfer. Yeah. You could move much bigger files in that case.
You can, but keep in mind the way it was built. Originally, it was designed for radio traffic. So there's a lot of error checking. It's almost like a packet. You transmit, you get an ACK back, and if there's
even over the internet, if it knows that it's a UDP connection or whatnot, that it's interesting.
Right. That's its internal error checking that it does within the software. Even though you're going to have that over an IP network without that, Ethernet based, etc. It was built for radio traffic where the error checking would have to be within the software application itself.
Right. I'm guessing though that it would still be faster than just over the RF, right? Yeah. So that's pretty good.
We do our local Aries group here in the Atlanta area. We have digital nets after our regular Aries net weekly, and we alternate between several different modes: FLDigi, WinLink, and DRATs.
Okay.
And we kind of adopted that within our state Aries group, because no one application really serves everything that you can do, every situation. It's another tool in the toolbox. And there are situations where DRATs is not going to be the best tool. WinLink would be better. FLDigi would be better.
I love this because you're going right into my next question, which was asked earlier. What is the difference with WinLink? I use WinLink all the time. So why would I? It was perfect. You said in some cases DRATs is going to be good. In other cases, WinLink would be better. What are those cases? Can you break that down?
Well, WinLink will operate over HF. And you have gateways there. And now with people running Vera for higher speeds on that, it's an application that would be much more suited. WinLink would be much more suited over HF.
Absolutely.
At a local level, there's a lot of similarities between DRATs and WinLink.
Sure. You don't have the live chat though, and that file transfer is a little bit jankier, I guess, on WinLink. I wouldn't really do.
WinLink is a messaging program.
Correct, but the DRATs having a directory that I say is my open directory, go have at, and I have all these files on it. That sounds like a fantastic idea.
It is. We used it. We don't get many hurricanes inland in Georgia. Along the coast, yes, but I think it was, what was the hurricane about 3 or 4 years ago that came up?
Sandy?
It came up through the west side of Florida, up through the Panhandle, and came up into Georgia as far as about Columbus, Georgia, which is almost mid-state, before it really dropped down from hurricane force winds.
That wasn't Sandy, right? Hurricane Sandy?
No, it was...
somebody in the chat will...
It was an I.
Maria. Somebody said Maria or Michael?
Maria was one of them. There was another one, an I hurricane. I can't remember what it was. And what we did with that, we had the hospitals on DRATs.
Oh.
And we did a lot of communications because I don't know what was the problem. Bands are crazy things. The HF bands were horrible that evening. And the communications that we had, because the internet was actually more reliable than a lot of people think, these hospitals we were communicating with DRATs as our primary transfer of information between the hospitals around the state of Georgia.
And were they all just kind of simplexing each other?
Well, they were just internet based, and they all connected to our Georgia Aries rat collector.
Okay. So if you're internet based, why couldn't they just use their standard software or whatever it is they do?
Well, if you're internet based, you really don't need anything else because you're actually sending over the internet, but you're sending between clients.
Okay.
So the other station would be running DRATs. And if you know their IP address, you can do that. Or the Ratflector kind of makes a common place for messaging to go through.
Okay. No, I apologize. What I mean is, in this emergency scenario, and the chat has exploded. Irene, Michael, Irma,
Irma.
Irma. Okay, there we go. We found it.
Irma came up the west coast of Florida.
Yep.
Came about at least a third of the way up through the kind of the west central side of Georgia.
Okay.
While it was still hurricane force winds.
Okay. Now, so you had all the hospitals on DRATs, and they had internet access. So why didn't they just communicate with whatever normal software they use? Why was DRATs needed to network them?
Well, we had, as a part of our ARRL functionality, we had ARRL operators stationed at each of these hospitals. And most of the what we call regional coordinating hospitals in Georgia were funded with a full amateur radio station.
Got it.
Yes, they could go through their local repeater for voice communications. Repeaters get linked together. The other side of that would be HF. And like I said, it was a Sunday evening. I'll remember it. The bands were dead. You could not get across the state on HF, even on 75 meters.
Got it.
And so DRATs played a extremely critical role that day. Now, the next day, bands were better. Another tool was working just as well.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's telling me now we need a HRCC Ratflector, so I have to get on that apparently. So I've got to set one of those
there
up.
You go.
So we got to set that up. I will email you to help me out. I probably would use one of my is the Raspberry Pi too slow? Does it have enough power to do?
No, it'll run it. It'll run a Ratflector.
A Ratflector? Okay, very good.
Yes.
Now, I guess it doesn't matter, but I'm kind of curious. What are the antennas that you use on your systems, if it's portable or at your home? This is more of a personal curiosity, but also if you think that there's a, omnidirectional, or do you use Yagis if you're trying to make it to one location? What do you generally do?
It really doesn't change your strategy for that. Whatever you would try to do with voice.
Okay.
If you're just setting up at a shelter somewhere, you might try to get an outside antenna connected to a Diamond X30 or something like that,
mm-hmm.
or just a Slim Jim or something. Anything to get outside the building, to be able to either work simplex or through the local repeater.
So I have to take this question because my wife posted it, and she's in the chat right now. She asks, this is going back to the hospital comment. I'm confused. If the hospitals had reliable internet during Irma, why did they need to use DRATs at all?
The interesting thing about that question comes up. We've seen it in a lot of exercises.
Yeah.
The hospital personnel during some type of emergency event are generally pretty well obligated, handling medical stuff. So we had an ARRL group stationed in those hospitals, and they handled radio communications because the doctors, the nurses, the emergency room personnel, if they're busy, they don't have time to even pick up a phone and do that. So that's where, in a lot of cases, amateur radio can be a big help in emergencies between hospitals, etc. Good question, though. Good question.
That's my wife. She's always got the good questions. She's constantly giving me questions, and I have to, really tough grilling questions.
I remember a situation. This was, maybe 10 years ago. We were doing a hazardous materials or an hazmat exercise with a local hospital, just one hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And we had people in the field, and their original intent was that they would have hospital personnel, the emergency room personnel, the hazmat station there would be able to talk through their business handheld radios within the hospital.
Right.
When the exercise went down, they found out, no, these people are pretty busy. Can you give me somebody to shadow this doctor in the ER? And therefore, they then provide the communications back and forth.
So there was literally like a someone following the doctor and doing comms for them.
Right. because let them do what they're best at. We're communicators.
Is it, and this is a broader question, this goes beyond DRATs. Is it just because the workload goes up so high during an emergency that the normal downtime that the doctor would input records in their database or whatever, patient records or whatnot, they just don't have the bandwidth to support both the life-saving tasks that they've got to be doing and also tracking patient records, transfers, needed things, all that stuff? Is that kind of why that this becomes a vital aspect of it?
Well, that's been my observation. We've done a lot of exercises with our local health. We have health department. We have in Georgia, the state health departments are divided into regions, and our local health department is over 3 counties.
Okay.
So when we do exercises with them, we've been acquainting them, and you've probably had some people on that are familiar or talked about the incident command system.
Sure.
As far as NIMS.
Yep.
So I go back years ago, they did not know how to use an ICS 213 form to send a message between point A and point B.
Gotcha.
A lot of that's changed now, but our ARRL's people, for example, at a minimum had to have ICS ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800 to be what we call deployable, to be able to go out, and they knew how to use those forms, whether it be over radio. And that was another thing on D-Star. It comes with a standard ICS 213 form, so you can fill that out. And one of the things it does, you fill that out just in a very small box with, doesn't go into a lot of detail. But when you send that on the other side and you try to print that form, it brings it into the browser as exactly the form, the way it looks to them.
Right. There's a couple of chats that came up, and I'm sure you've got an answer for this. The HIPAA thing, right? You're in an emergency. You've got somebody shadowing a doctor, radio operator. How does the HIPAA thing play into this?
Well, that is a very interesting question.
Yeah.
Because anytime you get involved with amateur radio and HIPAA regulations, that's a gray area. Now,
is it just emergencies be emergencies, and if people are dying, then we kind of just try to do our best kind of thing?
Do your best and hope that the lawyers don't get involved later.
Okay.
Well, I mean, one thing to think about with D-Star radios, not everyone has them. So while they are not encrypted, it is a defined standard by FCC rules. It is a little more private than someone, let's say the news media, monitoring on their old FM scanner.
Oh, copy. Yeah, got it. Okay. Very good. Shout out to SH Rutledge. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Obviously, I'm already feeling that we need to have John back to open the aperture a bit and talk more about emergency comms, because you're obviously a wealth of knowledge in this space. This is very fascinating. Just from DRATs alone, I can see all kinds of utility from that. But then everything we've talked about in the last 10 minutes here has been really, really interesting. We've already covered. Really, it's not like you have a recommended radio to run DRATs. It is pretty much any radio can use it up to a point, and even the internet, if it does VHF, UHF, and you can tap into it with a serial connection, right? I think that's
the only qualifier there is any D-Star radio.
Any D-Star. Oh, if you need, okay, got it. With the serial connection.
That's
right. Okay. Because it does leverage the D-Star, the D-Star system.
Right.
Okay, very good. Is there anything we didn't talk about, John, that you'd want to tell people that are looking to start out getting a DRAT system set up? Did we not cover any of your talking points that you normally hit?
Just go out and download the program, set it up, get on. There is a list. Also, well, first off, you can get the program. You can download it off of dstarinfo.com.
Right.
And then also on there, you will see a list of rat flectors. So then you can connect to those rat flectors, ping the station, see who's out there, communicate with it, play with it, get started. There is a groups.io group called DRATS Group, I think it was called.
Mm-hmm.
There's some very good people on there that will be glad to help people as well get started, because we just barely scratched the surface of some of the capabilities.
Sure. I mean, it sounds like it's, again, you used a really good term. It is a multi-tool. It is a Swiss Army knife of communication. It's something that if it fits the role, then that's the solution for the problem. But it doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all. And I think maybe people get too wrapped up in finding like the solution, and really they should be just adept in many solutions, I think, to solve their problem.
Well, I go back a few years ago. I was our ARRL emergency coordinator for our county for a few years, and I intentionally had an exercise at a meeting that I knew we were going to fail. And I just said, bring your favorite form of data communications, and we're going to divide up into groups and try to communicate with each other.
Great.
It was a miserable failure, as I expected, because one person could do keyboard to keyboard packet,
right.
One could do DRATs, one could do WinLink, and not everybody had that. So what we decided locally, and that became adopted as kind of a statewide standard, not one fits all, not one tool applies to everything. So we settled on 3 different applications modes, DRATs, FLDigi or the NBeams package,
right,
and WinLink.
Great. And
we use those 3, whichever one suits the proper communication need that you have.
Sure. Stack Smasher, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. John, this has been fascinating. This has been really insightful. I have learned a lot about DRATs. I have it loaded, and I didn't take the next plunge of setting it all up, but now that I have the 705 working with the WLAN, and I've got that ID31 that I'm now going to add to this whole thing, I'm definitely going to do this, and there will be a follow-on video to go along with this. But we would love to have you back again to talk. We can open, like I said, open the aperture a bit and talk about all the interesting emergency preparedness, emergency comms things that you're out there doing. Do you want to mention what teams you support and just out of what area you are, that for those
I'm located
can contact you?
In the Atlanta metro area. I'm active in our Georgia ARRES group. I'm a member of our local county is Gwinnett County ARRES. We're a county of right about 1 million people, a pretty large county in the area.
Yeah.
And we have the largest ARRES group for any of the county groups within the state. So we have an excellent relationship with our local emergency management director. They include us as a part of all of their activities and exercises. When they built the new Emergency Operations Center a few years ago, I was EC then, and he came to me and said, tell me what I need to put in our radio room. We're going to have an amateur radio room there. So sure. We enjoy a good relationship both at the local level and also Georgia Emergency Management, GEMA. So we have very active emergency communications support people within the state of Georgia and in the Atlanta metro area.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, if you're close to John, I'm assuming you're good on QRZ. Maybe you might be able to point people to how they can help you out with ARRES. ARRES is an amazing thing to get involved with if you're interested in getting involved in emergency preparedness communication and helping in these type of situations. So make sure to hit up John if you're in the Atlanta area, right, John?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. So another thing that John knows about is Discord. And John is going to join us on the Discord after chat. So I'm going to let John go. John, go ahead. You can hop over to Discord. There's some admins over there that can probably get the ball rolling. But we're going to let John loose right in the beginning. I'll be over there in a second. I got to wrap up the show. But bring your DRATS questions. And actually, we could open it up a little bit and just talk about emergency comms. I think people would really love to talk to you about that.
Okay, very good, Josh. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for hopping on. So yeah, just, thanks. Hop on over when you're ready and enjoy the fun. I'm going to wrap up the show. Thanks again, John.
All right. Take care.
All right. Boy, that was cool. Yeah, this refresh thing. Look at it, and it's going to do it again. I got to fix that. I got to fix this whole thing. I really appreciate everybody coming out. This was a fantastic episode for me because I was not educated on DRATs at all. So this was great. Having John come out, explain it. I think I've got an easy path to get this set up, and we may even have some DRAT stuff going with the HRCC here in the future. So thanks everybody for coming out. I got to do my big wrap up though. First, let me say thank you to all the members. Enjoy the emojis, enjoy the badges. I will post my videos first to the YouTube members and the Patreon members. So thanks everybody for for joining. But I do want to say a special thank you to the patrons. Thank you so much for the support in allowing me to do what I do. It really does mean a lot, and it makes me capable to do a lot more of the things that I normally wouldn't be able to do. Literally, your patronage, that's literally what it comes from. Your patronage helps the channel move forward, so I really appreciate that. And let me catch up on the chat while we're doing this. So many good comments. We kind of devolved a little bit with the HIPAA chat there, but let's take that to the after chat. Join us on the after chat, and let's ask John more about those things. David Potter, thank you so much for the super chat. And yeah, man, that was a good one. I'll be putting I don't know why that alert's all screwed up. See, there's things all every time I start the stream engine. There's always some kind of problem. I will be sending out the patron picks voting here soon to get an early jump on that, so I can be prepared for the first weekend of the month in which we will do a new patron picks episode, totally voted on by the patrons. Will Moran, see everyone in the Discord after chat 7-3. Thank you very much, Will Moran. Appreciate that. I see what the problem was. It needs to be there. There we go. Yeah, I did change this. I went back to the old style. I personally like the old style. I don't know why I went away from it, because I'm still connecting to Discord and all the other fun stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, that was a lot of fun. That thing is way too big. But Will Moran, there you go. That is huge. Very good. Okay, Pigeon Man's heading out. Chinese New Year worked. Oh, yeah, so Chinese New Year. Gong Hei Fa Choi. Sun Yin Kwai La, Chip Mung Na Moi. I think I got it. Scott, my wife will be yelling at me right now. Scott Schrodel, RP4 rat server. Yes, I like the RP4 rat server idea. Look at that. That's so crazy how the refresh rate. I got to fix that so it stays up. Thanks very much to Steve. Good Game Ham Radio. Appreciate it. I should be behind the chat. See, these are all the things that happen when you mess with stuff. I should be. What's going on here? Oh, that's why. There we go. The chat should be above me now. Oh, or it's just dead. That's good too. That's good. That's about what I expected. I just killed the chat. This is about the time that I should be dropping out. There we go. It's back. This is about the time that we're going to head out anyway. Please join us on the Discord after chat. We love to take your questions. And somebody asked what brew I was drinking, so I'll drink some more of these. But I'm drinking bacon and eggs. It doesn't taste like bacon and eggs. It's an Imperial Coffee Porter, and it's by Pizza Port, which is a great brewing company out of San Diego, California. So yes, please follow us down to the Discord. Go check out thehamtactical.com for the merch. We've got some new merch coming up pretty soon that is going to be a lot of fun. Until I talk to you again, take it easy, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And now we just wait, because I got to give a little bit of time, a little padding. I don't know how much time, but we just feel it out. All right. Thanks everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it.